Have you ever thought that you could get paid to play a specific sport that you loved when you got older? Crazy, right? I mean, most of us will go on to do grown-up jobs when we get older. However, players in the National Basketball Association get paid to play basketball, which is a sport they loved. Not so crazy anymore, right? You should listen to this informative speech about the National Basketball Association because it may relate to your job today. Or you might just learn some more about the National Basketball Association that you may have known about before, or you may not have known about at all. So a few years ago, I gained my favorite NBA team, the Golden State Warriors. And through the years, unfortunately, I've seen the first-hand effects of the organization having a good team to going to have a bad team in the NBA. So as a result, I've become interested in how the teams work within the larger organizations and how certain factors can build them up to be great teams and can kind of tear them down to be worse teams. So I'll start by telling the history of the National Basketball Association compared to the present day organization, since there has been a lot of changes within the last 73 years. Then I will compare Los Angeles Lakers to the Golden State Warriors and the Milwaukee Bucks to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So before I explain the differences between good teams and bad teams, it is important to understand some facts about the National Basketball Association, or more commonly referred to as the NBA. So according to 10interestingfacts.com, the NBA was formed from the Basketball Association of America, or the BAA, and the National Basketball League, the NBL. So one surprising fact that I found while researching this topic is that the league started with only 11 teams. Now this may be surprising to people that know more about how many teams are in the league, but you'll understand later. So two of the original teams still exist in the same place that they were, the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. They haven't changed places at all, and they haven't changed their names since they formed in 1946. So after 73 years, the NBA organization has become more complicated and definitely larger than it was 73 years ago. So the organization now has 30 teams in total. It's crazy that it went from 11 teams to the start to 30 teams. That's insane. The 30 teams are split between two conferences. One is the Eastern Conference, one is the Western Conference. Obviously, eastern side of the United States, western side of the United States. Then, in each conference, there are three different divisions within the conferences. And within the three divisions, there are 5 teams within those divisions. It's very confusing. And this is one problem that many people are having. Many people believe that there should be less teams in the organizations because 30 seems too many for the league. And also it kind of makes the division between very good teams and very bad teams more evident, which I will talk about later. The organization makes the sole decision on whether to expand to bring in new teams. Sometimes teams will change locations. So for example, there used to be a team in Seattle, Washington, but that team was then relocated to Oklahoma City as the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is the current team. So sometimes they can relocate and sometimes they change their names, but the NBA has the sole power to make the decision to expand or not. So the last expansion was in 2004 with the addition of the Charlotte Bobcats, which is now referred to as the Charlotte Hornets in Charlotte, North Carolina. The expansion fee that is from a new team entering the organization is divided between all the teams. So if there was a new team added tomorrow, then the fee would be split between all 30 teams. So now that I've discussed the history of the NBA, I will compare a good team, the Los Angeles Lakers, to a bad team this year, the Golden State Warriors, unfortunately, which is my favorite team, who are both in the Western Conference. It makes it fair if you compare two from the same conference. So the main difference between the success of the Los Angeles Lakers this season and the shortcomings of the Golden State Warriors this season as well can be demonstrated by the movement of players between the 2018 to 2019 season and the 2019 to 2020 season. So if you're not familiar with the NBA, or if you are, players are drafted onto specific teams through the NBA draft, but once they're in the NBA, they sign a contract with each team. So it's like if you're at a job, you sign a contract to be with that company for how many years, or they can fire you at some point, unfortunately. But they sign on to be with a team. And during that time, the team kind of owns them, which is one part why it's kind of like a job. They kind of own you. And so that team can trade you. To a different team in the NBA. Sometimes without your consent, you just get traded, which is really unfortunate for the players. And also, after your contract is up with a specific team, you can also re-sign with that team, or you can also sign with a different team. So that's kind of the movement of players that I'm talking about. So the Golden State Warriors have lost several key players through both injury and with signing with other teams between the previous and current season. So Kevin Durant, who's a well-known NBA player, he was a stat leader, so he led statistics in blocks and field goal percentages, while Stephen Curry, another NBA player, led the team in points, free throw percentage, and three-point field goals. In this current season, however, Kevin Durant has re-signed with the Brooklyn Nets, so he just re-signed with a new team, while Steph Curry has been sidelined with a broken hand, so he hasn't been able to play. So the Los Angeles Lakers, between the seasons, has been able to secure some of the best players in the league, which has allowed them to be at the top of the Western Conference this season. So Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee, Josh Hart, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope were all the stat leaders for the Lakers last season. Kuzma and Pope led the team in 2 stats, while McGee led the team in 3 different ones. So this year, however, the Lakers have 2 players that dominate most of the stats. LeBron James, who's extremely well-known, arguably one of the best players to ever play basketball, and Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis leads stats in points, rebounds, steals, blocks, field goal percentage, and free throw percentage. So now that I've discussed the LA Lakers and the Golden State Warriors, I will compare the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Milwaukee Bucks in a different way than just the movement of players. So one factor that creates a great team, and what I saw in my survey a lot, is that coaching staff. And this has been evident between the success of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the successes for the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Cleveland Cavaliers just hired a new head coach 2 weeks ago. And if you're not familiar, we're in the regular season right now, so this is a huge change, and it's could make or break a team. So the original head coach had just resigned from the position. Apparently he didn't connect well with the players, and he talked very negatively about them in the press. And so that's something that will destroy a team right off the bat if you just don't respect your players. And the new head coach is J.B. Bickerstaff, and this makes him the 7th head coach in 8 seasons, which is usually not something that teams are very proud of, to have 7 head coaches in 8 different seasons. Usually you want to maintain a consistent coach. So this is probably one of the reasons why the Cavaliers are not doing well this season. On the other hand, the Milwaukee Bucks have maintained the same head coach for the past 2 years, and they're also the leaders in the Eastern Conference and also the leaders like overall in the NBA. Mike Budenholzer has previously coached another NBA team, the Atlanta Hawks. So he has a lot of experience already in the NBA, which makes for a great coach, obviously. And he also has a reputation of building a winning culture and wanting to teach the players. And he's there for the players. He's not there just for the money, which is a great part of why probably the Milwaukee Bucks are doing great this season. So in conclusion, the NBA seems like a complicated organization. However, these teams are based on 2 common factors, the success of them, the players and the head coach. That's it. So the history of the NBA provides a solid foundation because it can be directly compared to the league today. And the worst and best teams are comparable by specific factors. So even though this the NBA probably doesn't affect us directly, probably doesn't really do anything for us in our day-to-day lives, and so you're probably wondering, why should I care about this? Why does it matter? Well, I like sports teams, and maybe you're not a big sports person, which is fine, but I think it's fun to see kind of how this, if you're interested in businesses, like how this is kind of run, because it's very different than a normal business. And I think also like it's kind of eye-opening to see how the players are kind of controlled by the organization a lot, and some people may think like, oh, it's just like a fun job. Well, they kind of have their rights limited within the NBA, so I think that's like something good to notice and to be able to identify. So I encourage you to watch an NBA game, maybe like research some NBA. I know sports, basketball is not for everybody, but I would also like you to kind of identify maybe how like certain businesses run. Yeah.